What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Doing a little Steelers-Cardinals preview for the game on Sunday at Acrisure Stadium. Going to be an interesting matchup between two teams kind of headed in opposite directions here. Just before we kind of get into the injuries and then talk a little bit about the Cardinals on both sides of the ball, how they match up with Steelers. Just be aware that I am recovering from COVID, so I've been under the weather the last couple of days. Feel a little bit better today, Saturday morning when I'm recording this. But if I sound a little weird or whatever, just understand that that's why. But we're going to grind through it anyway. So let's talk a little bit about the injury report. Steelers going to get Minka Fitzpatrick back, practice for the first time this week since being injured in the Jaguars game. That's going to be a really big addition to the Steelers defense because they've been playing some pretty good ball. Even in his absence, Trent played extremely well. Interested to see, how the pieces fit now that Minka's back, but that's definitely a boost. Not really any other huge injury notes to talk about for the Steelers. Montravius Adams is questionable. Not sure if he's going to go or not. He was limited on Friday. We will have to see. Sounds like it might be something he tests pregame. The Cardinals, on the other hand, have a host of injuries that we can talk about. Won't go through all of them just because I don't think that all of these guys are necessarily pertinent to, some big ones. Antonio Hamilton, a guy who's played a lot on the outside for the Cardinals. At cornerback, he's out with a groin injury. Some other injuries that could be particularly worrisome for them. Trey McBride is questionable with a groin. Marquise Brown, questionable with a heel. So those are really two of Murray's kind of go-to targets through the air. McBride especially, we'll talk a little bit more about him here in a little bit, but has been playing really good ball of late. And then safety Jalen Thompson is also questionable. So they had a lot of guys. McBride and Thompson were both limited on Friday. Hollywood has actually not practiced the last 2 days. So if you're looking for potentially guys that could miss the game, seems like Brown has a decent chance of maybe not suiting up for this one. Talk a little bit about the Cardinals. Offensive coordinator Drew Petzing is from the kind of Stefanski tree. He coached with him with the Vikings and then with the Browns as well. There is some familiarity with how the Browns run some of their stuff, particularly in the run game, to how the Cardinals run their stuff. Before we kind of get into Kyler Murray, his return to action, really the strength of the Cardinals team so far this year has been their run game. They are top 10 in rushing EPA per play and success rate on the ground this year, and that's without a healthy James Conner because he missed about a month of the season. But they'll run a lot of different stuff in the run game. Pretty good at a couple different things. Conner is still kind of the same Conner that I really remember from his days in Pittsburgh. JC, really good contact balance plus vision. He can block. He can catch the ball in the backfield, although they're not really using him a ton as a receiver this year. That's something that I've noticed. The Cardinals will use a decent amount of 12 and 13 personnel, so 2 and 3 tight end sets. I'm interested to see how that changes, if at all, now that Zach Ertz is like permanently out of the picture there. But they've got some other guys that they like, especially Trey McBride. But just going on to Kyler and his return, Kyler's been around for a little bit now, but he's still only 26 years old. The big thing with Kyler, man, is he's a playmaker. He wants to make plays. He wants to use his legs. Has a pretty electric arm. He can throw from different arm slots. He's very comfortable in the shotgun. So earlier in the season, it seems like the Cardinals were running some more like under center, some bootlegs, some things like that. And they've done a little bit of that stuff with Kyler to move the launch point. But you're also seeing them get into more shotgun over the past couple of weeks, stuff that Kyler's really been more comfortable with dating back to his days in college. But Kyler really comfortable and empty. Empty formations that they run help keep him on schedule a little bit because he is a little bit of a chaos creator. He'll run around, he'll take sacks, but he looks to create explosive plays with his arm. Really efficient throwing crossers, can throw the ball down the field. Rush lane integrity is going to be huge this week for the pass rushers. They have advantageous matchups up front. The Steelers pass rusher should have a good game. But the big thing with Kyler is got to make sure that he doesn't get out of the pocket, because one of the things about Kyler is not only can he hurt you with his legs. We saw the kind of game clinching play that he made against the Falcons to win them the game a couple weeks ago, but Kyler does a really good job of keeping his eyes up as he exits the pocket. So if you let him escape, he will keep his eyes up and he can hurt you down the field. But it'll be interesting to see. Kyler's got a lot kind of riding on the next, 6, 7 games or whatever. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he plays. Just up front with the Cardinals, Paris Johnson Jr., rookie, is going to be matched up with TJ Watt. You got some other guys that are, I would say, like baseline level starters. Johnson had some struggles, some up and downs, like most rookies do. TJ Watt, one of the things I look for him to maybe do a little bit more this week is Johnson. One of the kind of negatives that I remember of him when I was watching him over the summer or in the spring, excuse me, a little bit of a shaky anchor. So maybe look for Watt to kind of test him with some speed to power early on to see how he holds up in that regard. And now to just talk a little bit about the weaponry for the Cardinals. I think the number one guy that you really have to be worried about is Trey McBride, second year tight end. Got off to a slow start the last couple of years with the Cardinals offense, but really nice player, man. Was really impressed with his film. Nice hands, really, really strong after the catch. So they'll throw him the ball underneath. The Cardinals really like to run a lot of crossing routes. That's something that Kyler really prefers. He throws those balls really well. But McBride, in particular, strong, fast, physical dude who can run through arm tackles, stiff arm guys, make plays. He can turn a 2 to 5 yard catch into 10, 15 yards in an instant. So he's a really impressive player, a guy that I think is just now kind of scratching the surface on what he could potentially become. Talk about Hollywood Brown. We're all familiar with him from his days in Baltimore. Speed threat, vertical guy, still the same dude. Him and Kyler have had some good chemistry in the past. I think last year before Kyler got hurt, Hollywood was having a pretty productive season. Like I said, he hasn't practiced the past 2 days, so we'll have to see if he even goes. Kind of some of the other guys, Greg Dortch, the return man, he's a nice little player, complimentary piece. Not a feature necessarily on offense, but definitely somebody you should take note of. Got to make sure to bottle him up in the return game. And then Rondell Morris, kind of a little bit of a gadgety type threat. Short, stock, also good after the catch. They'll give him some plays out of the backfield. Like you'll see him occasionally. Get carries, screens, things like that to just get the ball in his hands. Just one more thing before we move on to the defensive side of the ball about the Cardinals. Kyler already has like 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns since he's been back. A big thing, part of the offense for them is the zone read game, especially they haven't really leaned a ton into his legs or the design quarterback run game, except in like third down and red zone situations. All right, now moving on to the defensive side of the ball. Look, man, Cardinals defense, it's been pretty brutal to watch this year. Honestly, I got through about a game and a half, and my instant thought was if the Steelers can't do it now, it's just never going to happen because the Steelers, if you watch the Kenny Pickett video, you know that I thought that they were kind of on the doorstep of breaking the offense open last week against the Bengals, just a couple mistakes away from really having that true breakout performance on the scoreboard. But this Cardinals defense is just bad. They're banged up and they're just not very good, in my opinion. They're 31st in EPA per play. They're 32nd, dead last in the league in success rate. It's tough. They have not had very much success this year. Of course, there's a lot of moving parts. They got a lot of pieces on that side of the ball. You look along just from a pass rushing perspective, they don't really have like a dominant type pass rusher. They've got some young guys. They've moved Zaven Collins, who started his career at inside linebacker. He's now playing edge. They drafted BJ Ojolari. You've got some other pieces just in terms of young guys that they're trying to figure out if they're going to be building blocks for the future. The Cardinals in general, they will play a lot of, it's 3-4, but it's multiple. They do a lot of that kind of penny front that we saw when the Steelers played the Rams. So what you get is just kind of this kind of 5-1 type front where you got 5 linemen all across the board and you only play with one linebacker. The Cardinals have had some issues too, just from a health perspective. Kaiser White was their leading tackler. Now they're kind of relying on, Josh Woods, Chris Barnes. Gardeck is, I think, their leading sack man up front. He's got 4 or 5 sacks. He's a nice little complimentary player, plays with a really nice motor to him. But overall, the front 7 has really struggled. You can run the ball at these guys with a lot of success. I mean, we saw what Kyren Williams and the Rams did to them last week, just some kind of parallels between the two offenses. The Rams trading for Kevin Dodson, very, very downhill running game. So they run a lot of power, a lot of gap, a lot of duo. There are some carryover from what the Steelers like to do in their inside run game to what the Rams like to do now. So Steelers are definitely going to look at that film, take some stuff and probably rely on that running success to kind of set them up, especially early in the game. As far as just the back end stuff with the Cardinals, the strength of this team right now is probably at the safety position. Jalen Thompson is a really nice player. He got paid, I think, a year or two ago. He's kind of the other safety that a lot of people don't talk about. Good playmaking skills. Has 3 interceptions. Had a pick off Matt Stafford in zone coverage. I think they were playing a little quarters look last year. He was able to jump on a dig route. He's a guy that you got to be careful of. The Cardinals play a lot of cover 2, cover 4 type stuff. They're a really heavy zone team. They will play pretty much everything, but you're going to get a lot of off coverage from the corners. They don't trust their guys, especially in press. They don't really trust their outside guys in man, mainly because we already mentioned that Hamilton was going to be out for this game, but they're starting Keitrell Clark, Garrett Williams. Clark is from Louisville, so a guy that I'm really familiar with. Clark's really uber competitive, nice footwork, has some ball skills, some fightiness to him, but he's a rookie, 6th-round pick. You're asking him to come in and play a lot of snaps early on. That's usually not a recipe for success, especially when you don't have a good pass rush up front, right? And then Garrett Williams, guy from Syracuse, guy that I really liked, especially a couple years ago. Suffered a season-ending injury last year for Syracuse, working his way back, fell in the draft a little bit because of it. But another guy who has a lot of experience playing off coverage in that Syracuse Orange scheme from college as well. But, those 2 guys, the Steelers are going to have the advantage on the outside. The Cardinals will live with, outbreakers, especially quick throws underneath. The Steelers, I think, are going to be able to take advantage of that. I don't know if they're going to be able to generate a ton of plays over the top, but the Cardinals have given up those as well, and they don't tackle particularly well either. So I know I kind of sounded like ragging on them really a lot here, but just when I have watched the defense, especially watching that Rams game from last week, the Rams did whatever they wanted. Run game up the middle, screens, they threw deep crosser, Stafford. I mean, they did whatever they wanted. So I think, like I said, if there was ever a time for the Steelers to build off of the success that they had last week against the Bengals, if they could just get some of that this week to carry over, it'd be awesome to see. But they play the game for a reason, right? But having said that, the Cardinals 2-10, they have been a little bit more competitive. They had some competitive losses early in the season, especially without Kyler Murray. Josh Dobbs playing before they ended up trading him. They've been competitive in games, even when they haven't won them. Of course, they've had some ugly losses too, but that's just the reality of not having a very talented football team. The Arizona Cardinals are very much a team in a rebuilding phase, but I always think, facing a team that you're not familiar with, that is coming on the road. They've got a quarterback that's playing basically for his job, right? Because in the next 4 or 5 weeks or whatever, the Cardinals are going to have to decide if Kyler Murray is the guy that they want to build around moving forward, or if they want to kind of reset that quarterback time clock, go get Drake May, Caleb Williams in the draft, and then move Kyler. So he's playing, a little bit for his job, for his team, right? So he's going to be highly motivated. And then you just think about, just the pride aspect of it. The Cardinals got blown out last week by the Rams. They ran all over them. They got punked out. You listened to some of the players' interviews post-game. It sounded like they just didn't feel like they showed up, didn't feel like they gave a ton of effort. It's usually not a good thing. So I think that they will be a little bit more ready to play than they were last week. Just some interesting historical stuff, too. The Rams have just had the Cardinals number just in the time that Kyler was there. He has not played well against the Rams. So you're going to get a motivated team. I still think that the Steelers are considerably better on both sides of the football than the Cardinals are. I just think that they're playing better ball. I trust the Steelers defense to slow down the Cardinals. Even if I do like some of their pieces building around, moving forward, I also think that the Steelers offense is going to be able to have some sort of success and hopefully put up more points on the scoreboard at home. If there was ever a week, again, one more time, for them to put up 30, 35 points, this is it. So hopefully we see that. I'll be interested to see if they can build on some of the stuff from last week, maybe some 13 personnel and just, increase middle of the field usage. I want to see it. Let's see if Kenny Pickett can string together a couple really solid performances as the Steelers move forward for a playoff push. So if you guys watch the video, thank you very much. I appreciate your support and appreciate y'all tolerating my raspy voice. Hopefully I'm feeling 100% better by like tomorrow or tomorrow night. But check out all the content, Steelersnow.com. If you haven't seen the Kenny Pickett video, it's 40 minutes, quarterback breakdown stuff. I know you guys like that stuff, so go watch it. I appreciate y'all. I will holler at y'all next time. Peace and love.